So G3 plant, we'll talk about G3 plant. G3 plant is basically the most common plant that we see almost every day. So G3 plant will close the stomata to minimize water loss. During hot, dry days, they will close the stomata to prevent water loss. And also carbon dioxide level will decrease, oxygen level will increase. Why is that? When they close the stomata, photosynthesis will continue to occur. Then you will have the buildup of oxygen inside the leaf, and the carbon dioxide originally getting from the atmosphere, they cannot go into the leaf because the stomata is closed. And this will actually increase the chances of having photorespiration. Okay, C4 pathways. Because as I mentioned previously, C3 plant is most of the plant, but C3 plant, they cannot live in a hot, dry environment. So some of the plant, they develop something called C4 pathway, some kind of special structure. Basically, they separate the they do the Calvin cycle in two different places. So at first, you know that Calvin cycle start with carbon dioxide binds to RUBP, right? So what happened in the C4 plant is that the carbon dioxide does not bind to RUBP, but it binds to a 4-carbon molecule. We call it oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate, you will see this molecule again in cellular respiration. And then oxaloacetate will later broken down into 3-carbon molecule. The 3-carbon molecule, we call this pyruvate. You will also see this in cellular respiration again. And basically the binding of the carbon dioxide with the oxaloacetate and then keep carbon dioxide in this form. And then when oxaloacetate actually oxaloacetate will become malate. Later on it will become malate. Malate is another 4-carbon molecule. Then malate will carry this carbon dioxide to go to something called a bundle sheath cells. Bundle sheath cells. So bundle sheath cells, when malate carry the carbon dioxide in the bundle sheath cell, then malate carbon dioxide will start the Calvin cycle inside the bundle sheath cell, and then malate will become pyruvate, and then pyruvate will go back, will leave the bundle sheath cell to reform, to regenerate the binding molecule for the carbon dioxide. So because of that, the accumulation of oxygen or carbon dioxide, all these gases, they are in a different place. The actual Calvin cycle is in a specialized cell called bundle sheath cell. In this case, we separate the process into 2 different spaces, and this can avoid the photorespiration. Let's look at and compare the structure of C3 and C4 leaves. So for the C3 leaves, that means most of the plants, they have the stomata, so carbon dioxide go through the stomata, go into the spongy parenchyma. And then as it happens, then the gas will diffuse into the spongy parenchyma, and then they will start doing the photosynthesis, and then the spongy parenchyma, which is here, they will produce oxygen. So the oxygen will mix with carbon dioxide in the space in the spongy parenchyma. That can causes the so-called photorespiration. But in here it is different. For the C4 leaves, C4 plant, carbon dioxide goes through the stomata and stays in the space here. But then the gas has to go through the gas has to combine with other molecules like oxaloacetate, and then it has to be transported into the bundle sheath cell. As long as the gas goes into the bundle sheath cell, then the photosynthetic Calvin cycle can occur, and in this case oxygen will release. But when oxygen release, it has to go through all these cells. So all these layers of cell separate the carbon dioxide and the Calvin cycle. So in this case, then it prevents the photorespiration. So that's why C4 plants tend to be found in a hot, dry climate, because they have this, they separate the process by space. And stomata tends to close to conserve water, but in this case, when you close the stomata, the oxygen produced by the photosynthesis will accumulate inside the leaves. And oxygen cannot will also decrease the oxygen from going inside the leaf. So the last point here tells you the photorespiration. Oxygen competes with CO2 for binding RUBP that causes photorespiration. Again, the photorespiration was the result. What's the result of photorespiration? Decrease the yield of G3P. So the last type of plant is called chem plant. They do the Calvin cycle in a different time. They separate the Calvin cycle. What does it mean? During nighttime, what happens is that the stomata will open. Then they will absorb the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and then they will combine, or you call it fix, they will combine CO2 with, okay, I don't like the C4, okay, it confuses you with the C4 pathway. 4 carbon, I call it 4 carbon molecule. The 4 carbon molecule is the oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate, which is the same oxaloacetate you will see in cellular respiration. Oxaloacetate later will become malate. It is also a 4 carbon molecule. So carbon dioxide combined with oxaloacetate, and then oxaloacetate later on convert into another 4 carbon molecule become malate. So malate will carry this carbon dioxide, and then it will go, and this is during nighttime. And then during daytime, what happened? Malate will release carbon dioxide and and then, okay, this C4, say 4 carbon molecule is stored in a large vacuole, okay? So in a large vacuole for what? For the plant to use in the daytime. So the 4 carbon molecule combined with carbon dioxide, they will be stored in a large molecule so that they will be used in the daytime. During daytime, then the Calvin cycle will proceed. So the 4 carbon molecule releases carbon dioxide to Calvin cycle during daytime, because during daytime the stomata will close to minimize water loss, because they usually live in a hot climate. So the 4 carbon molecule releases carbon dioxide to proceed with Calvin cycle during daytime. This is the chem pathway. So during nighttime, the carbon dioxide will be bound to oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate later on become a malate, and they are stored. The malate and carbon dioxide complex will stored in a large vesicle, and then during daytime, the malate, this 4 carbon molecule, will release carbon dioxide for Calvin cycle. So you can see that the differences of the 3 pathway. The first one is the C3 plant. We call it C3 plant. Okay, it's most common plant. Basically, they cannot, the CO, the carbon dioxide, they are in the space of the spongy mesophyll, and they just go into the spongy mesophyll cell. They just go into the plant cell and start the Calvin cycle. There's no separation for that. That can cause, if the plant is in the hot climate, then it will cause the photorespiration. And then the second one is the C4 plant. C4 plant, they can live in a hotter climate, okay, because the carbon dioxide, because I would say the Calvin cycle occur in the bundle sheath cell. As the Calvin cycle occur in the bundle sheath cell, so it has a physical separation. So what happens is that carbon dioxide again go through the stomata, and they are in the space inside the spongy mesophyll. And then they will go into the mesophyll cell, and in there they will bind with oxaloacetate. So in here, they will bind with oxaloacetate, and then you convert into malate. And then malate has to go into the bundle sheath cell. The malate has to go into a bundle sheath cell, and then you will release the carbon dioxide into the bundle sheath cell. Then you will start the Calvin cycle. In this case, separating the space helps to minimize the photorespiration. The last one is the chem plant, which is the plant that can, like cactus, they can live in really, really hot and dry environment. The reason is that during nighttime, they open the stomata, and then so that they can absorb lots of carbon dioxide into the cell. And then after they absorb lots of carbon dioxide into the cell, carbon dioxide is bind with what? Oxaloacetate, and then oxaloacetate is changed to malate, and then they are stored in vacuole. So malate with carbon dioxide is stored in vacuole, and then during daytime, what happened? Then the stomata will close, and then they can make. They use the carbon dioxide stored in vacuole to make to do the Calvin cycle. So they separate the Calvin cycle between daytime and nighttime. So next, we will talk about cellular respiration, which is something that I like. I like more cellular than photosynthesis. And then, yeah, these are the reading.